Americans know just what the companies they support are endorsing. The Southern Poverty Law Center, in their quest to root out what they consider hate in this country, labels these two people, Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council and activist Ayaan Hirsi Ali, as part of that group that they're against. She responded by saying this, quote, "I'm a Black woman, a feminist, and a former Muslim who has consistently opposed political violence. Yet the SPLC has the audacity to label me an extremist." But the SPLC has been the beneficiary of huge corporate donations from the likes of JP Morgan and Apple. And that prompted Kim Strassel in a Wall Street Journal op-ed today to note this. By funding this list, JP Morgan and Apple are saying they support labeling Christian organizations that oppose gay marriage as, quote, hate groups. Victor Davis Hanson is a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, and he joins me now. Victor, welcome. Very good to have you on the program tonight. This piece by Kim Strassel caught my eye this morning, and we had looked at, obviously your piece the other day on the war monuments, but this one to start with, in terms of this sort of progressive leaning at corporations where they feel that if they don't back groups like the SPLC, they might be criticized, there might be backlash from some of their consumers, but they may get just the opposite here.
Yeah, they do. They're business people, so they look at the world in a cost-benefit analysis, and they've come to the conclusion that a few activists like the SPLC represent a greater danger by defamation to them or blackmail or boycotts than do the vast majority of Americans who basically agree with the tolerance and classically liberal views of Hirsi Ali. And more importantly, the SPLC, to be specific, looks at minority people as a Borg, that they have to have uniform views, and when somebody who's brilliant, beautiful, Black, ex-Muslim, courageous female like Hirsi Ali comes out and speaks empirically and talks about the world the way she sees it in a logical and rational manner, that represents an existential threat to the SPLC. And corporations, as I said, are just amoral. They react to what the perceived profit-loss calculus is.
And we saw a similar thing with many of them stepping away from these councils that the White House was operating for the same reason, right? They just felt that they sort of looked at their P&L and decided it wasn't going to be worth it for them because they're likely to get blasted on Twitter and on social media by organizations that may or may not represent the feelings of the American people at all.
No, and most people are traditionalists, and they live and let live, especially conservatives, and they're not the type of people, when they see something that bothers them, to get everybody riled up and to boycott and to magnify their numbers like as people on the progressive left do. And so business people just react to perceived pressures. We've seen that with ESPN and the Asian American sportscaster psychodrama. We see it with the USC horse that happened to be named Traveler. But I think corporations really have to ask themselves, how long can they be this immoral and just react to perceived business decisions without offending people who may come out of the shadows and finally say enough is enough?
Let's put up this hate group map that the SPLC put out that included groups like the Family Research Council. I mean, Victor, if you look at this, you would think there's just hate crawling across the entire country, and you better just stay in your house and hunker down.
Yeah, they're bullies and they intimidate people. They're sort of like the McCarthyites of the 1950s. I've been a target of them for just speaking about in support of assimilation, integration, and intermarriage in the case of immigrants, and they feel that is somehow discriminatory. So they're riding high because of the Charlottesville incident, and they've got a lot of donations, and it's gone to their head. And they're hubristic, and they better be careful because I think they're going to create a backlash not only among the American people, but maybe the corporations that appease them right now, but might not in the future if there's a popular backlash.
Yeah. With every passing day, there are more examples of these statues and monuments being taken down, and they've become a symbol of the kind of strife that you and I are talking about right now. Thomas Jefferson was doused with red paint at the University of Virginia, which he designed and founded. And then you have Colonel Crawford at an Ohio University, and his statue was decapitated. You've been writing about this, as I said, and you said, when we wipe away history at a whim, and then in parentheses, why in 2017 and not in 2015 or 2008? We better make sure that our targets are uniquely and melodramatically evil rather than tragically misguided. And which category do you think these individuals fall into?
Well, I mean, humans by nature are flawed, and when we apply the standards of the 21st century, we can find all sorts of standards in the past. But notice it's selective. People are not going after a progressive racist. By our terms, they would be racist. Earl Warren, Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood, Susan B. Anthony, Woodrow Wilson. We could have a whole session on the things that they said that by modern standards, they should be airbrushed away. Yeah. Or they're not going after the Che Guevara statue in Central Park, who personally executed people with his own revolver. They're not going after Mahatma Gandhi, who was a great man, but he said some terrible things about blacks in South Africa, and he said some terrible things about Jews on the eve of World War II. So they're selective in their outrage. They're also insidious. This, as you pointed out, it's evolutionary. And they're going after language, a horse and USC or things like that. They eat their own, the revolutionaries do.
So. Victor Davis Hanson, thank you so much, sir. Good.